Rocky Balboa has just been released onto 4K Blu-ray with a new extended director's cut version of the movie, running at 14 minutes longer. Is this film any good? Does this film go the distance? That's what I'm here to talk about. So let's get into this one. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So it was in 2007 that Sylvester Stallone stepped back into the ring for a new Rocky movie, that being Rocky Balboa, that came sometime after the much maligned Rocky V, which saw the franchise come to an end in a somewhat lackluster way. Sylvester Stallone wasn't happy with that ending and thusly gave us a new Rocky film in the form of Rocky Balboa. Yes, now this film, I'll be honest, I think this is a fantastic movie. I have always loved Rocky Balboa and it probably stands as my second favourite movie in the franchise after that first movie. Yes, I put it above all of the other Rocky films other than that one. So this here 4K presentation I was excited for. I was excited for a director's cut version of this movie. Obviously, Sylvester Stallone went back and gave us a director's cut version of Rocky IV that actually edited out a lot of the problems that film had, a lot of the problems that made that film somewhat dated and seemed somewhat silly as well. We know the scenes we're talking about, the robot, yes, that sort of stuff. And it focused far more on the fight than anything else. But what has he done with this film here? That's what I sat down and watched this. And yeah, luckily, I actually watched Rocky Balboa itself, the theatrical cut, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, just by chance, so to speak. I don't know why, I was just in the mood for it and I sat down and watched it. And thusly, this came out this week and I'd never heard about the director's cut of this movie, so I was intrigued. And I was also doubly intrigued to learn that actually this director's cut has never been seen before, never been shown before. It is kind of exclusive, a new release to this version here, this release here. Obviously, you do get both versions of the film on here, the theatrical cut and the director's cut. The director's cut actually runs for, let me get this right, 116 minutes, whereas the theatrical cut runs for 102 minutes. So 14 minutes of additional footage. Yes. So, first of all, let me talk about the 4K transfer here, more than anything else. The 4K transfer is fantastic. Now, this isn't a very colourful film, but it does have a lot of dark moments in it, and those dark moments are enhanced by the said 4K transfer. But when we do have colour on the screen, it does pop. There's scenes with the gold on the robes and the costume that Rocky wears during the fight. The scenes where it turns to black and white and you only have like the red of the blood or the blue of a shirt and the gold on Rocky's outfit again. There's moments like that. The grain is pulled back. There's not a lot of grain to be seen. It is a lovely, nice, crisp, clear picture and fantastic sound as well, with the Bill Conti score with this. Now, the Bill Conti score, that proper Rocky music, is kind of enhanced for this film. And I think when I first saw this film, I actually didn't like what had been done to some of the Rocky tunes with the inclusion of a lot of trumpet kind of sounds within, but I've got used to that and now I actually really love it. You know, it's a fantastic reworking of that original score within this film, again by Bill Conti, like I said. So yeah, so I sat down and watched this film, and like I said, I'm biased towards this anyway because it is my second favourite Rocky film. But does that mean that the film done good or done bad? What did it include? What did it include? We'll come to my final thoughts afterwards. But basically, we get some more footage at the beginning of the film. We get some footage of Rocky in his house, waking up on that first morning that we meet coming. He's introduced in this film. Before he goes out in his backyard, he makes himself a coffee and he downs or attempts to down some raw eggs, like what Rocky's known to do, only this causes him to vomit. So you have a few extra scenes there going on. We come to find out also during this scene that Paulie is actually living with Rocky. He's living in Rocky's house. And he's painting. He's a painter. He likes doing a bit of art and this sort of a thing, and that's played on a little bit. A little bit further into the film, we get a little bit more of Paulie at work and Rocky going to see Paulie, and Rocky having to put a hairnet on while he's in the meat factory and this sort of a thing, and a bit of more character stuff between them. The Rocky scene where he meets Angie, that's the mouthy girl who comes up to him in the bar, the young girl, and he kind of gets into a bit of a skerfuffle with the geezers, with the bird's boyfriend. That scene there's completely different. I mean, the outcome is the same, the journey's the same, just the scene is different. The bar scene is far more crowded, far more people in there. Rocky's not talking to little Marie while this girl approaches him. He's actually talking to the bar owner, who's a fella in a wheelchair, who suggests that Rocky gives her a lift home, and this sort of a thing. It all happens there, and it's a better scene, it's a stronger scene when you go back and watch it, because the bar's more crowded. Rocky's got far more interaction with a lot of the people in the bar itself. So another nice little scene there. After Paulie gets fired, the alley scene where Paulie kind of has a little bit of a breakdown in Rocky's restaurant, there's far more going on in that scene outside. It is somewhat more extended, a bit more breaking down from Paulie and this sort of a thing, and yeah, that sort of thing. There's a training scene thrown in. The scene where Rocky's with his son in the street, and he gives him that speech, that now iconic speech about it's not about how hard you get hit, or it's about how hard you can get hit and get up and keep moving forward, that sort of a thing. There's a scene that comes after that of Rocky first sparring in a ring, because Rocky knows he's going back to fight, and he's no good. He's not very good in the ring. He's slow. He's takes some hits and all this sort of thing. And then you jump into the scene where Rocky's son, with Rocky being at the graveyard, Rocky's son comes and visits his mother's grave. So you have that there as well. And there's other character moments here and there about. There's a lot more between Rocky and Steps. Steps being the son of little Marie. This is back in the film before this. There's a lot more with them to give a bit more character there. Character arc for the Steps character, who kind of after that, and after getting the dog, does kind of vanish into the background somewhat. So, you know, a lot of the scenes, they're character moments. So unlike Rocky IV, which pretty much gave you a complete new cut of the movie, this is more akin to a proper director's cut, what we come to know as a director's cut, as opposed to a reworking of the movie, in that it gives us additional scenes that builds up character, that builds up emotion, all this sort of a thing. Obviously, when this film came out, this was the length that the film was pretty much presented at, and the studios wanted Stallone to trim back to get it around that 100-minute mark, and that's what forced Sylvester Stallone to give us the shorter film that we got in the first place. Do these scenes add anything to the film? The film is no different, okay? The film, in the sense that it does nothing really to the narrative of the movie in any way, shape or form. Whether you watch the director's cut or theatrical cut, you get the same movie throughout. Only this enhances a lot of the character moments, and like I said, adds a lot of emotion back into the film. The film's full of emotion anyway, but it gives you just a little bit more to grab hold of. And it's a great version of the film. If I go and watch this film again, it will certainly be the director's cut version of the film. Now, what it is that I love about this film is that it kind of harks back to that first Rocky film, where you've got someone who has something to prove to themselves yet again. And in this case, it's an older Sylvester Stallone who realizes that he's still got a lot more going on down in his basement. He needs to get out, and he still needs to prove to the world, or no, not even to the world, prove to himself that he can still do it, that he can still be what he once was after slipping into this life that he has slipped into. Now, obviously, this film does eject the idea of the brain damage that came about, that was played heavily on in Rocky V. But for me, that's no issue whatsoever. I'm not a fan of Rocky V. I mean, it's not a bad film, but certainly not a way to end that franchise for this character. So I've got no problem with the kind of film overwriting that and forgetting about that and going with what they went with. It's a damn fine film, and obviously this film is made somewhat different by the character of Mason Dixon, who's the opponent that Rocky fights. In every other Rocky film, you've had these opponents that feel almost comic book, larger than life. You know, you had Apollo Creed in the first two films, you had Mr. T in the second one, you had Ivan, well, you know, what's his name, Clubber Lang, you had Ivan Drago in that fourth film, and you had whoever it was in the fifth film, Tommy Gunn, was it? Something like that. I'm sure that's a porn star's name. Probably is, but there we go. Anyway, so I digress. But so the film gives you this opponent that is far more believable as a boxing champion than anyone else that we've got prior to this, because he's not comic booky, larger than life. There's not much extra with him, nay, anything extra with that character, with that opponent character. And this, so the film obviously does nothing extra with him, and in some ways he feels somewhat underwhelming as an opponent, other than the fact that he is the current world champion. He's not really given anything to do other than he's there to be Rocky's nemesis for this movie. But you know, this is a wonderful film because it does focus around the character of Rocky Balboa aging, what that means to him, what that means to his family. He deals with certain losses that he's had to come to terms with throughout his life since we've last seen him. And it's a great exploration of a character that we have watched grow from quite a young person up through everything he's gone through up to this point. And it's a wonderful send-off for the character. Now, obviously, I know the character came back in the Creed movies, first two anyway, but no, this works as a proper finale, and it always gets to me. The end of this film gets to me, and spoilers now if you haven't seen it. Obviously, at the end of the film, Rocky doesn't win the fight. He goes the distance, but he loses the fight on points, mirroring what happens in that very first movie. But the fact that the character of Rocky and his team, they step out of the ring before it's even announced who won the fight, just shows you that this wasn't about the need to win. It was about the need to prove to oneself that you can still do it, that you can still go the distance, so to speak, that you can still take those punches and get up and keep moving forward. And even when they hear that the geezer that Rocky has lost and the other fella's won on points, the crowd's again cheering for Rocky at this point, and Sylvester Stallone walking out and the sheer emotion on his face, because this was a real crowd. This was a real crowd because these moments were filmed during real bouts down in Las Vegas. They filmed in between fights and this sort of a thing, so it's a real crowd, and the emotion, the sheer emotion on Stallone's face. This isn't Rocky, this is Sylvester Stallone, and the love that the crowd is giving to him by chanting the name Rocky. They didn't even be told to do this, and it's a moment that gets me in this film because it is so powerful. It is such a strong moment to witness, and like I said, just that emotion on Stallone's face just secures this character as one of the greatest characters in film history, and this movie here as a finale is one of the greatest finales to a film series ever, hands down. This film certainly goes the distance. Check it out, get the director's cut, it is well worth it.